Devin, I've been getting a lot of calls from franchisors asking about selling franchises and our process and just questions around the whole, how do we find good candidates? I was wondering if you could take us through your process of getting to awarding a franchise potential.
Absolutely. So ultimately, the main goal for any type of awarding process is to have a good qualified candidate that's interested in a business model be paired up with a franchisor who has a existing business model that's been successful and be able to create a good franchise partnership between the two of them. In doing so, there's certain qualification processes as well as certain steps to make certain both sides feel comfortable before that partnership comes to fruition. So in the first part of the process, we're typically letting them know about the brand, the background of the company, background of the ownership, what the services entail. Beyond that, we're typically going through a qualification process with applications to make certain that they financially can qualify as well as their background. And then in addition to that, we take them through what's called the FDD review process, which will allow for them to be formally disclosed as a part of the franchise, and taking them through what that document is and why we need to have one in a part of the franchising process. A big component in the franchise sales process is getting the franchisor involved to make certain they know who they'll be working with moving forward. So several calls in the beginning of the process, as well as finalizing the process with Discovery Day. Discovery Day is a formal meeting between franchisee and franchisor where they can get an opportunity to come out, see the operations, and get a chance to actually feel comfortable moving forward.
Great, that's great. Can you talk to us about when you might make that introduction to the franchisor? I think you might have touched on qualification or making sure that they're a good candidate. What do you look for? What are the questions we're asking? What is a qualified candidate?
Big part is what their background is, what they've been doing for their career up to that point. For example, if they're getting into a restaurant or if they're getting into a service concept, have they ever been in that business before? Do they have a good understanding of that industry? But ultimately, I try to get the franchisor involved as soon as possible to at least open lines of communication over initial phone calls so they know who we're speaking with, they get comfortable with what their background is before we then take them through the qualifications both financially as well as background checks and anything else to make certain that they'd be a good qualified candidate.
Awesome, that's great. And if you're a new franchise system or a new franchisor or an emerging franchise, what sort of obstacles or challenges are you facing? I know you've worked with a number of brands. Can you talk to us a little bit about?
The most difficult part is being the first in as a part of the brand, right? So if they haven't seen other franchisees be successful under the leadership and the guidance of the franchisor, of course it's difficult for them to join a system that has been unproven. So our job is to make certain that they are reassured that the franchisor is there to assist them, to make certain they are successful, especially being the first few units, to make certain that the franchise can get off the ground. But our job, of course, is ultimately making certain that they feel comfortable, that they feel qualified, that they're going to be set up for the best opportunity for success.